YouTube, it's Above Average Coding. Today we talk all about your weapon offsets in Halo Infinite. Now, I have been asked about weapon offsets probably 3 times in the last 12 hours, and it's just a question that comes up all the time on the channel, so I thought it was time to do an updated video. Now, what are weapon offsets for those that may not even know what they are? It is basically where your gun is positioned on the screen. So you see my battle rifle, it is right out in front of me with not a lot to show, and then slightly off to the right. You may see pros run it further to the right or further up on their screen, or you may even have weapon offsets default, because you can use weapon offsets to put the gun on your screen pretty much anywhere that you would like it. Now, it's worth mentioning what I run first. I run minus 100%, minus 100%, and plus 100%. Now, that's what people want to know. This is what I run. I feel like it takes up the least amount of the screen because I want to see more enemies on my screen as opposed to more battle rifle on my screen. Now, what do each of these values do, guys? It's pretty straightforward. First off, you can do this for any weapon type. If you like your rocket launcher to be a little bit more on the screen than you like your pistol to be more on the screen, perfect. You can change it for each one. I personally run all of the same values, but you have melee, pistol, rifle, and heavy. You can adjust them all separately, and you can have them all be different. Now, we're going to focus rifle because, obviously, we have a battle rifle in our hands. Now, the horizontal offset, guys, very simple. This controls where your gun is positioned left to right. So I have it minus 100, so it's all the way to the left. If I turn this value all the way up, it's going to go all the way to the right, and you can see it kind of tilts because it's like a perspective thing, because your Spartan is technically still holding the weapon, so it basically, they're just holding it, or at least it appears that they're holding it, further to the right. And now vertical offset, you guessed it, this is up and down. I run it all the way down, so it's as far off the screen as possible. You're going to love this one, guys. If you turn it all the way up, you can have it eating up almost 25% of your screen. I've seen people run it higher, not this high, but they do run it a little bit high. And again, I run that one all the way down, so it is as low as it can go. And now the depth offset. This is how close or how far away the gun appears. Now, I run this at positive 100%. I used to run it at negative 100. And you can see it appears a little bit closer, which you would think closer means it takes up less of screen, but that's not the case, because if it's closer to you, the gun will appear a little bit bigger. So if you go positive 100%, which puts it further away, it appears a little bit smaller, and the angle at which is a bit straighter. So in a way, it's actually taking up less of the screen. So that is why that value I run at positive 100%. Now, again, the reason I run these 3 values, and I run them same for every single weapon class, the reason I run these values is because I feel like it takes up the least amount of screen. It makes the BR look as small as possible, and it just takes up the least amount of screen. Why do I care about that? Because I want to be able to see enemies, and I move it all the way as close centered as possible, because if I have something in my central line of sight here, guys, I should have my reticle over it anyways. Very rarely is something going to be this close to me and I'm blocking it with the BR. And the reason I run it as far left as possible and not like all the way in the right corner is because quite often I'll use the right side of my screen to check angles and things like that. So for example, this enemy here, guys, if I have my horizontal all the way to the right, I can potentially block that enemy by checking my angle. Even just the scope will block him. You can see I'm centered there, and I may miss seeing this enemy here if I have that all the way over. So fundamentally, you may think putting in the right corner is a good idea, but for me personally, I like to leave it towards the middle, or as middle as possible, because it gives me a lot more screen all the way to the right to be able to check angles with and things like that. Other than that, guys, this is strictly aesthetic pleasure. However you like your battle rifle to look, do that. Play around with it. Again, you can move it left and right. You can move it up and down, and you can move it further away and closer. I run whatever I think gives me the best advantage in combat situations, if you want to call it that. But by all means, if you want to leave it default, leave it default. If you want to run it, I see people run it where, like, they run it up a little bit. So let's go to, like, default vertical, and then let's go, like, mostly to the right, and let's move, like, the depth down. it looks kind of cool this way. I'm not going to lie. You can still use that area to peek, and you can just see more of the BR. You can now see the charm much clearer. You can see a lot more of the gun camo, and it's much more aesthetically pleasing. But again, guys, I don't care about all of that. So I just run it to wherever it's as far out of my way as possible, which for me I found is minus 100, minus 100, positive 100. But by all means, guys, it's personal preference. Your gun's not going to shoot different. Your reticle's not going to move different. And your gameplay is going to be completely the same. So it's all preference. That's why I'm kind of surprised how often I get asked this question. But that's what I run, guys. So if you want to just copy my values, by all means, I feel like this is what takes up the least amount of screen. But that's pretty much all I have to say about weapon offsets, guys. Please subscribe to the channel. We upload literally every day, tips and tricks, gameplay videos, you name it. Live stream 5 days a week as well on Halo Infinite. Leave a like on the video, guys, so everybody else can see what the deal is with my offsets. And of course, leave a comment. What do you run your offsets at? I have yet to find somebody that runs different offsets for different gun classes. So if you're that type of person, I'd love to hear that you do it and why you do it so I can get a better understanding. But other than that, guys, thank you so much. Channel membership, super thanks if you'd like to support monetarily. Helps me out as a creator, but please do not feel like you have to. But alrighty, guys, this was a pretty long video for just weapon offsets, so stay happy, stay healthy, and stay tuned for the next one.